My name is Ethan. Today, on my 33rd birthday, I stood in a room flooded with light. Yet for me, there was only darkness. It was my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. In front of 60 high society guests, my father looked me dead in the eye, raised a champagne glass, and calmly said I was the biggest mistake of his life, the one who ruined everything for him. He was smiling, like it was a genuine toast. He truly believed he'd just put me in my place. But that arrogant man had no clue. No single person in that glittering room had any idea that the small, cream-colored box in my 8-year-old son Noah's hands was the death warrant of their hollow world. And my innocent boy was holding it, thinking it was just a beautiful gift. I looked around that ballroom. A blanket of lies covered everything. White silk tablecloths, gold chandeliers, crystal glasses clinking to jazz music. 40 years of a perfect marriage. The whole city viewed this lie as a fortress. But I knew how much poison ran through its foundations. Relatives who'd been missing for years were sitting right there. My father's old business partners. Neighbors greeting each other with smiles that lasted too long. Everyone knew exactly where they stood in this family hierarchy. And in the middle of it all, my Noah, he stood beside me, shifting his weight. His tiny hands wrapped around that cream-colored box with a crooked blue ribbon. He'd spent an hour trying to get that ribbon right. It was slanted, messy, but to my son, it was the most beautiful gift in the world. His hands were trembling with excitement. "Dad," he whispered, tugging my coat. He looked up with those pure eyes that were still blind to this family's malice. "Do you think they'll like it? Will Grandpa keep it on his desk?" I looked at him, and a shard of glass shattered inside my chest. A part of me, the father who wanted to protect his innocence, wanted to lie. To say yes, they'll hug you. But 20 years of wounds don't let you lie. So I forced a smile and patted his shoulder. "They'll remember it for the rest of their lives, Noah. I promise." If only I knew how heavy that promise would be. Then the moment arrived. My older brother Daniel sat in the front row in his custom suit, the undisputed heir. He spotted me, raised his glass, and flashed that smug smile. "See, Ethan, I didn't need your $50,000. He had no idea the legal rights to the very chair he sat on were in my pocket. My father stood tall at the center table, puffing his chest. No trace of financial ruin on his face. My mother sat beside him, diamonds around her neck. Diamonds I knew were rented on a credit card set to bounce Monday. When I walked in, they looked away, like looking at me would ruin their photographs. And me? I stood in the farthest corner, a legal ghost, a spectator never allowed to be part of their story. No nudge my hand. "Dad, should we give it now?" I nodded. "Go ahead, son." Walk straight to the main table. Noah stepped forward. His small shoes echoed across the marble floor. One innocent melody in that massive room. My father saw him and narrowed his eyebrows. Annoyance. "Happy anniversary, Grandpa." "Happy anniversary, Grandma." Noah's voice echoed through the podium microphone. The room went dead silent. "Dad and I made this for you." For a split second, something shifted. Even the arrogant neighbors smiled. My father's hand froze over his glass. But my mother never changed. She looked at the box, then at the crooked ribbon. To her, that ribbon wasn't a child's love. It was cheap, a stain. She flicked the box with her finger. It slid across the table, clink, against a wine glass. Small sound. In that silent room, it hit me like a gunshot. Noah's smile vanished. Then my mother locked her eyes on me. Not on him, on me. She didn't even look at Noah, just pushed the box aside and said I'd always been an attention seeker. "Remove this homemade." "Garbage," she said, like my son was nothing. Noah froze. He didn't understand the politics, but he understood rejection. His lower lip trembled. Tears welled up, and that trembling lip shattered the last drop of my patience. My father stood up. For one foolish second, I thought, maybe he'll stop her. Maybe he'll stand up for his grandson. He straightened his silk tie, pierced me with that familiar hateful gaze, and said, "We don't want anything from you, Ethan. Take your things, take your son, and get out. Don't ruin our night." When he said, "We don't want anything from you," a strange peace washed over me, because it stamped the final truth I'd spent 33 years trying to deny. I was never his son. I was only acceptable as long as I was useful. I stepped forward. Calm. Measured. No die. No screaming. Just cold. Heavy. People parted. Every eye locked on me. I reached the table, placed my hand on Noah's head. Go stand by the doors, Noah. Papa will be right there. He walked out without looking back. I picked up the cream color box, slipped the crooked ribbon off, and clenched it in my fist. Inside wasn't a toy. It was a manila envelope. Their truth. I pulled out the documents and spread them on my mother's silk napkin. You call me a mistake, I said. Low voice. Didn't need to shout. The room was so quiet I could hear the AC. But your mistake is the only reason this anniversary isn't being held in a homeless shelter tonight. My father laughed. That ugly smirk. What nonsense. Leave before I call security. I didn't break eye contact with him. Daniel, tell them what you've done. Daniel turned to stone. Champagne spilled over his expensive suit. Ethan, please, not here. Tell us what, Daniel? My father's voice cracked. Yesterday morning, I went to the central bank and bought your foreclosure debt, I said. The auction of this house was scheduled in 41 days. Daniel put it up as collateral for his failed business loan. The bank was coming for the keys. I gave up my entire life savings to clear it. I bought your pride. The room erupted in whispers. Daniel stared at his empty plate. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, rented diamonds catching the light. My father turned to Daniel, voice cracking. Is this true? Daniel collapsed into his chair, face in his hands. Their golden child. Exposed. I turned back to my parents. Face completely blank. I only ever asked for one thing. Respect. Not love. Not approval. Just basic human respect. Then I made the decision that changed everything. I brought these papers to gift this house back to you. For a fresh start. I wanted to show Noah how we lift family up. But what you did to my son. I paused, folded the documents, slipped them into my jacket pocket. My father reached for my coat. I stepped back. His hand hung in the air. I'm keeping this deed. This house belongs to me now. You have 30 days to pack and leave. The crowd gasped. The same relatives who'd bowed to them moments ago now looked with pity and mockery. The illusion was shattered. My father slouched, aged 10 years in 1 second. Ethan, please. You're destroying us. Will you throw your own parents out? What will people say? I looked at him one last time. No, you destroyed yourselves the day you chose pride over truth. I turned around, didn't look back at my brother, my mother, the 60 guests watching the funeral of the Harrison Empire. I walked to the doors, took Noah's small, warm hand in mine, and pushed through into the cold night air. The crisp wind hit my face. For the first time, I could breathe. As we walked to the car, Noah asked quietly, Dad, did I do something wrong with the gift? I stopped, got down on my knees in front of him, looked straight into his eyes, tightened my grip on that blue ribbon in my pocket. No, Noah, you did everything perfectly. You just finally showed me who they really are. And that night, as I started the car and drove away from that glittering palace of lies, something came to an end. Not a family, because we were never one to begin with. For the first time in 33 years, I chose myself. I left behind a palace made of paper. My real home was asleep in the back seat.